a stablecoin, a fiat-backed stablecoin. It will be the first of its kind on Cardano. It's pretty straightforward.
We are the Crypto Fairies. We've got an NFT project running at the moment, built on kindness and love. We've made 1,100 fairy friends, and we've got about 400 left, and we just want to bring kindness to the blockchain. My daughter was really bullied at school, and we've met online now. A lot of them, we don't know who we're speaking to. So our brand is I'm the Fairy Godmother, Molly's Tinkerbell. I just want to make everyone be kind, and all the young people coming into the space to behave themselves in the new Web3.
And I guess that's the reason that I'm here with Mum, because coming into an industry that is now dominated, obviously, is a bit scary and wary. And I have always been more of a testosterone-based female and more towards the male side of life anyway. But to have Mum here and that intergenerational team thing going on really helps me, because I can understand it from a different perspective as well. So sometimes my young mind assumes things, and my overactive mind assumes things, and then that intergenerational knowledge and wisdom comes in and really helps out. So that's how we work together as women.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. Now I will give a heads up, I'm not texting, I'm looking at my notes so that way I'm not off topic. So the first question, as women in a male-dominated ecosystem, what was your experience navigating the space and effectively building a reputation for yourself?
I've always been in a male-dominated space. I have 4 brothers, then I joined the military, then I was in politics. Very, very, very male-dominated. So I feel quite cozy and at home here in crypto. I have a harder time relating. I hear a lot of other women who are in the Cardano women's spaces and things who've gone through some difficulties, both just in real life, but also in the crypto space. And I feel like, if anything, I'd like to be a defender. I think that more than a male-female thing, it's an agreeable-disagreeable thing. I've actually taken the personality test, and I got a 0 on agreeability. So I fit in really well in the male-dominated culture. How about you ladies?
I've always been surrounded by men and boys, and we had a construction company, so we always worked primarily around male energy and stuff like that. I've heard other women talk about the same sort of thing. That's why we brought our ideology to the blockchain, is because we wanted not only to have women have the acceptance, but sometimes it's more for the women to be accepting of other women too, because we have this toxic mentality in female culture, and it's a very big, you probably have it in male culture too, because of testosterone and the competitiveness, and sometimes you need to get rid of that competition and replace it with compassion, and I think that's what we're trying to do here. So it's more about making everybody feel welcome more than just the one gender.
And because all these guys spend a lot of time online with these games and everything, that's why I feel, being older, I've had sons, had a construction business, being able to realise how to speak to men and bring women in and let them know that the men are not meaning it like that, we're just different species, so we communicate differently.
I want to touch base on what you mentioned, Molly, about the toxic femininity portion and competition. I think that's something that is really important when we are talking about bringing more women into the space. A woman should never, or not even just a woman, anyone should never really compare themselves to compete in the ecosystem. The only person that you're competing with is yourself, honestly, from day to day, and I think that's actually really insightful from you to mention. And then if there's anything last words for the question? This one?
I'd like to just, reiterate what Molly said, that I also have 5 sons. So I've done a lot of research on how little boys' brains work, and they're literally formed differently in the womb. We literally think very differently, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually a very good thing for our world, but it does mean that we have to learn how to communicate with each other differently. And I find in spaces, a lot of the time, men are very receptive to learning how to communicate with you better. I have found the Cardano community in particular to be very, very supportive of women. If you had been at the, I think it was the last panel that you were on, were you the only female? Yeah. And she was in the middle, and there was a guy asking questions and dominating the conversation, and Molly obviously had something to say, and it was about time to wrap up. And whoever was moderating, right before he wrapped up, he said, I think Molly had something she wanted to say, and gave her that opportunity. That's all that it takes. That's all that it takes. And men have just as much of an opportunity to bring more women into crypto. Just as much, it can't rely on the 5% of us women who are here to bring in all the rest of the other women. Everybody here, I'm pretty sure, has a wife, a girlfriend, a sister that you could have brought along to, well, it's a very expensive conference, but you could have brought along to this conference, or any of them. You can buy them an NFT for Christmas, put it on a copper seed, make them a wallet, put their passphrase on a copper seed safe, cute little thing, put it in a pretty box and wrap it up for Christmas. And then that gives you an opportunity to teach them something they didn't know in a way that might pique their interest.
Especially when you know the language. As a family, I think that communication is already so close that you are open to, communicate in the way that they might be understanding of it. So I really love that idea, for sure. And on to the next question. What's a specific achievement or challenge you've encountered thus far in your professional journey that you credit too much of your success in our ecosystem today? Like, whether it's in the ecosystem or outside of the ecosystem, that's something that I think would be enlightening to take into account.
My military experience. Just, I guess, learning how to push yourself farther than you thought that you ever could. I got that there, and I've been able to apply that everywhere. Kind of helped me form the mentality that there's nothing that I cannot do. There's nothing that I can't learn.
I've always believed that your word is your wand, and what you say, you've always got to be positive. One of the biggest problems I face in this industry is I don't know if they're a woman or a man, because they're behind a PFP, so I don't actually know who I'm speaking to, because I run the Twitter account. So that for me has been really hard, because it's a woman who will be up there, but I genuinely know that it's a guy. So that's one of the struggles I face in this industry.
Sorry, I just feel like the best thing that I've had happen to me in my life to help me on this journey is sort of more of like a philosophical journey. So it's like a more of like, we like to call it mind magic. So it's like being able to control your mind and your thoughts in a way that you can make your interactions, communications, and everything better for yourself. So I'm a yoga teacher, I practice meditation, and I know it sounds very whimsical and all that lightheartedness, but it is scientifically, neurologically proven to actually help. So we want to bring that more on so to the blockchain, because that helped me in my personal everyday life, not only on the blockchain to be able to deal with others, deal with people, deal with business chemistry, but to deal with lots of other life aspects as well.
I love that, absolutely. I think that's been a motto kind of being echoed through the women lately, is to get out of your own head, proceed with challenges and those kind of things. So thank you on that end, and of course, thank you for your service as well. I can agree that discipline does go a long way. It definitely teaches you a lot about yourself, and then that goes to teaching others. Onward to the next question. Considering how the Cardano NFT ecosystem is comparable to an ambiguous startup environment, how did you identify opportunities to grow your expertise and presence?
Yeah, it was just real life, obviously. It wasn't really like, we didn't ever intend to come in, like I didn't business research and intended to come into a space. It was purely intuitive. So we joined different communities and see the outreach outreach that we got and the response that we got. And luckily enough with Cardano, we got an amazing response with an amazing community, and it was just our real life experience that made us come to that decision. It wasn't necessarily business research, it was more so like, okay, I'm going to put myself in this ecosystem, I'm going to see how I feel, how I get interacted and communicated with, and then see what comes back, and Cardano just blew it out of the ballpark for us.
And one thing I found is because obviously I'm older, that I used my old ways to the new ways of the internet, because I used to think to myself, what would I have done 20 years ago? I would have just asked. I would have just been there every day, just keep on doing it. If it was a suburb that was 5 miles away, I would have had to get the bus there and ask them. So I just kept going into different communities and asking, and nobody's ever that horrible to say, go away. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, I build on that. The first thing that I did getting into this space was go to the library and check out every book that I possibly could on the topic. That's my go-to, no matter what I'm trying to learn. 3 books will make you smarter on the topic, you know, than 95% of the other people involved. And then after that, it's just networking. And again, on Cardano, it has been a really easy space. You know, there are no stupid questions. And I was able to go in spaces and be very welcomed by you know, an all-male space. And they were more than willing to answer any question in great detail. They want you to learn. They want more people in the ecosystem.
I definitely want to echo that sentiment for sure, because when I first came into the ecosystem, I knew nothing. I had just put in whatever money I could into Ethereum, tried minting that way, and a week later I found Cardano, and was through Discord, honestly. As much of a nightmare that place can be for some, like, it was a great stepping stone, then going on to Twitter, and the sentiment was to go onto these spaces, and you're not pressured to come up and speak at all. I mean, sometimes, you know, it's encouraged, hey, if you have a question, come up and ask. But you can just literally sit there in peace, write all of your questions, write all your answers that are already being asked, because if you don't ask it, someone else probably is, and then eventually you can pinpoint specifically what question you want to ask that no one else has thought of, you know. And it's constantly evolving that way. And I see myself having to reflect on how I started and comparing it to the new individuals who are coming into the system and how they are starting, because it's not how it was when I first came in. There's so many new products, there's so many things that are evolving, so it's making sure I stay on top of it so that way they can have a smooth, easy process like I did when I first came in. So thank you for that. And then our final question before we go to the audience here. What impact do you see yourself making in the NFT ecosystem today, and how do you plan on expanding that impact?
Well, I think Meehan stablecoin is going to be a big, big part of the Cardano explosion that is definitely going to happen in the DeFi space. I'm very excited about that.
I feel like kindness will bring the next generation into the blockchain, because the younger people need to know how to come in rather than just using Snapchat, Discord, all these little TikToks. They need to know how to come in and start a job and have an income. So we need the youngsters. So I just want to bring kindness so they feel safe to come in. And being the fairy godmother, I hope I bring that.
Yeah, we just kind of wanted to try and create a space like where everyone could feel welcome and come in and not feel like outsiders, or we like to show vulnerability as well, because sometimes as creators and as leaders, we don't show that vulnerability. People think it's unattainable for themselves, and think that that level of like the way that we look or the way that I carry myself, it doesn't mean that I might be not nervous when I come on before here, or I might not cry at home when I go home. But I do that, like, and you have to show that vulnerability, and I think that's so important to let the next generation of individuals know that you can do it, and there is mistakes, like, sometimes it's not yes or no, it's just a lesson that you have, and it's just a lesson that you have to go through. So that's what we want to bring to the NFT space. We want to bring a bit more of an optimistic mindset, and like, I guess a utopian future is kind of like a bit like hindsight, but like it shouldn't be, because it is really easy to get on with one another when we understand each other more.
Absolutely, absolutely. and if I can lastly chime in, as I do lead, you know, the initiative of Cardano Women, it's also amplifying, you know, each other's voices, men and women alike, so that way, you know, those who are not in the ecosystem can hear you. It's like the word of mouth, the brick and mortar mentality is like, oh, you should check out my friend's business, you should check out this kind of opportunity. I think it would bode well with you, and then it would continue to grow from there. So I look forward to that growth for sure. Now, in final notes, may I ask someone in the audience who has a question for these lovely ladies up here on the stage? Going once? Going twice? And come up with
Hypothetically, this space is dominated by women. How would you imagine it would actually feel different?
So your question was, hypothetically, if the space was dominated by women, how would it be different?
I think things would move faster. I think it would be more cutthroat. And I think that if it was dominated by women to the percentage that it's now dominated by men, it would be harder for men to join the space in the same way that it's harder for men to be teachers or nurses. There would be a stigma around it because it was women dominated.
Yeah, no, that's my drop for sure. That was perfect. I definitely agree with that.
If there was like more women dominating this industry, I feel like we would have had more preparation and questions prepared for today.
Nothing wrong with what the gentlemen have done, and honestly, it is thanks to the gentlemen who have amplified us to be up here on the stage. So big, huge thank you to those who recommended us and advocated for us to be here today. So I do appreciate that. But I did want to touch on that standpoint where if it was a predominantly woman-oriented space, it's no offense, but I think how women have been thinking for many, many years is that we are constantly in defense mode. So that's why it would make it harder for men to come into the space, because we would question every motive, every sentence, and it's only to protect what we are building, what we have going on, for not even for ourselves, but for the next woman who we have next to us, and our children, our husbands, so on and so forth, especially because we've had that nurturing thing that we want to make sure that they don't experience the mistakes that we did in our lives. So I think that's something to note.
There is just one thing that I just wanted to stand out on, is because I have a lot of friends that don't identify as female or male. They have a pronoun that's different. I've had to learn a whole new way of living because of this way of life, and I fully respect it, But I don't know how, with this whole women in blockchain thing, how can I segregate my friends who don't identify as one? How can I say you can't be part of my group, or I'm going to be more welcoming to you? So I do love that we're more inclusive for women, but I like the motto of inclusivity for all, because political correctness nowadays means that everyone's accepted. If you identify as a piece of carpet, you can come in. It doesn't matter. Like, you're just a human being. It doesn't matter you're a soul. So that's my ideology on things. Like, although I am a woman, I identify with everybody, right?
Do you have any examples of how blockchain could empower women across the globe who are living maybe in repressive regimes, or?
Well, this is like a subject that I love talking about, because everyone talks about mass adoption on like a big scale, and they talk about it with like hype, or like with like FOMO, or like hackathons, or something like that. And there is just so many real life use cases that can help people that aren't so privileged as us sitting here in this amazing conference. Like, there's people in the Middle East that I've interacted with who have designed stuff for me that don't have access to a bank account, but I've paid them in cryptocurrency. And I don't know the legal obligations of that, but they aren't actually able to have their own bank account in their country because they're a female. So for me, that is empowerment beyond belief than getting someone from my year 10 high school to start an NFT project. To me, that is so much more difference to the world than my friend joining and making a bit of ADA. Like, that just seems like more mass adoption, because that's like what we're trying to do, we're trying to change the people, trying to pivot the world to look at the way money is used, instead of just getting new, like my individual friend to join. Just, yeah.
And to touch on that as well, I think a while ago I did a thread on Twitter about things that women still cannot do. And it was mind-blowing. Some women aren't allowed to have cell phones. They aren't allowed to drive. They aren't allowed to enjoy the wind blowing in their hair. Those small little things that we take for granted. Just imagine what crypto technology can enable, not even just women, just anyone. I know that from my experiences as a first-generation Panamanian American, I was talking to a gentleman earlier, my family used to send money through Western Union. I mean, we still technically do. But that building is now a dangerous spot because people know that that's where money is coming through. So they are being attacked. They are vulnerable to lose everything that they have. And that's on both parties, from the individuals who are here in the US or wherever they are in the world. And that's their last savings that they worked so hard on tips, on their life income. And that goes for, the individuals who are currently trying to get away from Russia. It's all over the world. But I think that would be something insightful to see the growth of freedom.
Yeah. That's what we're all here for, aren't we?
Yeah, within our company, we have ladies that are artists, HR development, developers, and we don't have any difficulties in recruiting ladies for and our community is all family based, so we don't let people swear within our Discord. My question to you is, do you find it as women leaders, do you find it difficult to recruit people like developers or artists? Because are there barriers there that we don't see ourselves?
Well, me personally, no, because I'm quite tough, so unless I actually, there's pitfalls in everywhere. We had a construction cleaning company and we owed money from them, so you just have to do your own research but no, there's no trouble with, we've had one bit of trouble, but yeah, nothing on the whole as in general, because we are family based and we try to employ a lot of families to do a lot of things as well, so until we grow, we haven't come across that.
I guess that's why I try and study a lot of business chemistry to try and understand others. So if you can understand others, there's certain aspects of some people that may not work together and work as well with other people, male or female. You can be a certain type of personality or not work well with another type of personality. But if you're aware of that personality type, and you're aware of another person's personality type, you go, they don't go together well, you might not put them together well. There might be some swearing going on between them because they don't get on. So we can avoid the swearing, not by saying don't swear, by not matching these two individuals together. So that's kind of what I like to try and study, because I look at it as more of a bird's eye view thing, that is an emotional thing that I can control.
Any more questions?
Anyone? I'll come over with the mic.
Hi, thank you guys so much for speaking. I'm from I was a former ballet dancer and have never worked around so many men, so I'm also trying to navigate the space. As a man, a cis male, I'm wondering, it may be very obvious to a lot of people, but what are the biggest wins for women in the space, and how can men help support that?
I think the wins for women are the same as the wins for men. I was informed earlier today that I'm the first female CEO in DeFi on Cardano. There's a win. But when there's a second and a third and a fourth, that's the real win.
My win is I don't have to get up in the morning and put makeup on. I just work from home now. It doesn't take me an hour to get to work. I can sit at the computer, so it saves time. That's my win.
And it's all just about understanding each other, like, and the willingness to understand each other as well. So like that honesty, that vulnerability, and sometimes like trying not to take offense. Like that's something that like has been a huge thing in my life, constructive criticism, because it's so hard as a human being to take constructive criticism, because you automatically go into defense mode. You go, oh, that's not me, I don't do that wrong. But like as like just gender, whatever, but just understanding each other is just so important. Like, and celebrating each other's wins, because jealousy and envy really trigger a lot of weird psychological movements. So if you can just be happy for one another, it goes a lot smoother. Like if you can celebrate other people's joys, you end up getting more joys yourself as well. So yeah.
And then I'll chime in on that. I really enjoy the fact that we're getting rid of the gender roles. You know, a woman can be a boss and have her husband, her boyfriend, a significant other, whatever they identify as, support them in their successes. And same thing goes as a woman has always been, or for the most part, cooking, cleaning, and taking care of him. It's equal now, and it goes for, you know, a gentleman supporting their significant other, male, female, however they identify as well. So I think that's the biggest win. And like she was saying, everyone is supporting each other. And to second, you know, seeing that a barrier is reached and accomplished of the first CEO of DeFi, the next ones that happen, it's like Barbie, you know, inspiring young girls to be whoever they want to be, whether it's an engineer or whoever they want to be. It continues that inspiration. So, last question. I believe that would be for.
I have a question for the audience. Could you raise your hand if you have an NFT project that you're selling? That is a crap ton of hands. Women, at least in the United States, control 70% of the disposable income. They make about 75% of the financial decisions. How many of you are actively marketing to women? How many of you are on Instagram and Pinterest for your projects? Bam, a couple. If you're not, you need to be. I hate Facebook as much as the next guy, but there are women there. There aren't nearly as many women on Twitter. So if I leave you with nothing else, please try to target those rich women and target them where they are.
Yes, preach. Oh my goodness, I have been so excited about that. As honestly, when doing research to find out where are the women in the space when I first came in, the amount of Googling and LinkedIn I've done has been near impossible. And it's thanks to being at events like these that I find the women who are with their significant others who aren't entirely enthused to learn about it, but once they see another woman in the space to maybe talk about just general life things and then go into the topic of blockchain, crypto, gaming, all of those things, then they feel empowered to join the space. So, with that, I think that wraps up our segment. I want to say thank you again to everyone who came to support. For those who are recording, I hope that you are able to get connected with the individuals in the room, to like, comment, share the word, subscribe on YouTube channels and things, and, you know, tell them about your amazing experience here. So, thank you.